If you are watching this right now, there is a very good chance that you have been hiding your feet for months, maybe even years. You avoid sandals in the summer. You keep your socks on at the beach. You feel embarrassed taking your shoes off at a friend's house. And every single time you look down at your nails, that same wave of frustration hits you all over again. Yellow, thick, crumbling nails that just will not go back to normal no matter what you try. I know exactly how that feels, and I want you to know something very important before we go any further. This is not your fault. And more importantly, it does not have to stay this way. What you are about to hear in this video is going to change the way you think about nail fungus completely. Not because I am going to sell you some miracle cure or make you some outrageous promise, but because there is a piece of information that almost nobody in the mainstream health world talks about, and once you understand it, everything else suddenly makes sense. Why the creams did not work. Why the soaks did not help. Why even the expensive prescription treatments only gave you partial results before the problem came back again. All of it will make sense in just a few minutes. So please, stay with me until the end. Because the people who skip ahead or click away before hearing everything are the same people who will be watching videos like this one again 6 months from now, still frustrated, still searching for answers. The people who stay, who really pay attention, are the ones who finally start to see real change. Let us start from the very beginning, because understanding what nail fungus actually is will help you understand why most treatments fail so miserably. Nail fungus, which doctors call onychomycosis, is caused by a group of microscopic organisms that feed on keratin. Keratin is the protein that makes up your nails. These organisms are incredibly resilient. They thrive in warm, moist environments, which is why the feet are their favorite place to live. Public showers, swimming pools, gym locker rooms, tight shoes, even your own bathroom floor. These are all places where the fungus can transfer from one surface to another, and from one person to another, without anyone even noticing. Once the fungus gets under your nail, it begins to feed. It goes deep, past the surface, past the layers you can scrub or file away, and it starts to establish itself in the nail bed, which is the tissue that actually grows the nail. That is when you start to see the changes. The nail turns yellow or brown. It starts to thicken and get harder to cut. The edges become brittle and begin to crumble. Sometimes there is a faint smell. Sometimes the skin around the nail gets irritated. And in more advanced cases, the nail can start to separate from the bed entirely. Now here is where most people go wrong. They see the problem on the surface, so they attack the surface. They buy an antifungal cream or spray from the pharmacy, and they apply it every day hoping it will soak in and kill whatever is lurking underneath. And sometimes it does help a little. The nail might look slightly better for a while. But in most cases, the improvement is temporary. Within weeks or months, the yellow comes back, the thickness comes back, the crumbling comes back, and the person is right back where they started, just a little more discouraged and a little more convinced that nothing will ever really work. So why does this happen? Why do so many treatments fail even when people use them consistently and correctly? The answer lies in something that most doctors and pharmacists never explain to their patients, and it is called a biofilm. A biofilm is not just a fancy scientific word. It is a survival mechanism, and it is one of the most sophisticated defense systems in the entire microscopic world. When certain microorganisms, including the fungi responsible for nail infections, want to protect themselves from attack, they group together and form a thick, sticky, protective layer around themselves. Think of it like a fortress wall. On the outside, you might be able to chip away at the edges, but the core, the living, thriving colony at the center, is protected by this dense structure that most standard antifungal ingredients simply cannot penetrate. This is the hidden factor that dermatologists rarely discuss with patients, and it is the reason why so many intelligent, proactive people continue to struggle with nail fungus, despite doing everything right. The treatment is not failing because you are using it incorrectly. The treatment is failing because it was never designed to deal with what is actually going on beneath the surface of your nail. When researchers began studying biofilm formation and fungal infections more deeply, they made a discovery that was both alarming and incredibly important. The fungi responsible for the most persistent nail infections are among the most efficient biofilm producers ever studied. They can form a fully developed, treatment-resistant biofilm in a very short amount of time. And once that structure is in place, the concentration of antifungal agent needed to break through it is dramatically higher than what you find in any over-the-counter product. In some studies, the effective concentration needed to penetrate a mature biofilm was shown to be dozens of times higher than the concentration found in typical topical treatments. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between throwing a cup of water on a bonfire and actually putting it out. But here is the thing. Once researchers understood the biofilm problem, they were able to start working on solutions that actually addressed it. And this is where things start to get really interesting, because the most effective approaches did not come from more powerful synthetic chemicals. They came from nature. Certain natural compounds have been shown in scientific studies to have a remarkable ability to disrupt biofilm structures, not just to attack fungi on the surface, but to actually break down the protective matrix, expose the underlying organisms, and then neutralize them. When these compounds are combined correctly, they create what researchers describe as a synergistic effect, meaning the combination is significantly more powerful than any single ingredient on its own. Some of the most studied of these compounds include tea tree oil, which has been shown to interfere with the integrity of fungal cell membranes, undesolenic acid, a fatty acid derived from castor oil, which disrupts the ability of fungal cells to adhere to surfaces and form the sticky matrix of a biofilm, oregano oil, which contains active compounds that researchers believe can penetrate the biofilm structure itself, berberine, a plant-based compound with strong antimicrobial properties that has been studied extensively for its effects on resistant infections, and several others, including specific plant extracts that have traditional uses in natural medicine and are now being validated by modern laboratory research. The key insight here is not that any one of these ingredients is a magic bullet. It is that when they are combined in the right ratios with the right delivery mechanism to help them penetrate below the nail surface, they can work together to address the biofilm problem in a way that traditional treatments simply never could. Now, I want to take a moment here and be very transparent with you, because I think honesty matters, especially when we are talking about your health. I am not here to tell you that you will wake up in 7 days with perfectly clear, beautiful nails. That is not how biology works, and anyone telling you that is misleading you. Nails grow slowly. A fingernail takes roughly 6 months to fully replace itself. A toenail can take anywhere from 9 months to over a year. So even if you start addressing the underlying fungal infection tomorrow, it will take time for the healthy, new nail to grow out and replace the damaged tissue. What can happen in 7 days is that you begin to disrupt the cycle. You can start breaking down the biofilm. You can start restoring a healthier microbial balance. And importantly, you can stop the progression so that the new nail growing in behind the damaged area has a clean, healthy bed to grow from. That is what the 7 days represents. Not a finished result, but a meaningful, measurable beginning. And the people who have been through this process report that what they notice first is not even the nail itself. It is how the skin around the nail starts to look better. The redness and irritation begin to calm down. The itching, if there was any, starts to subside. The nail stops feeling tender. These are the early signs that the environment is changing, that the balance is shifting in the right direction. Let me tell you about something that really illustrates how different this approach can be from what most people have tried before. Think about someone who has been dealing with thick yellow toenails on their big toes for several years. They have tried every drugstore product. They have soaked their feet in vinegar. They have used tea tree oil on its own. They may have even gone to a doctor and been prescribed an oral antifungal medication, which helped at first, but then stopped working, or caused side effects that made continuing it uncomfortable. Every time they think they are making progress, the problem comes back. And the frustration is not just physical, it is emotional. It wears on you. It makes you self-conscious in ways that affect your daily life. When someone in that situation discovers that there is an actual biological explanation for why nothing worked, and that there is an approach specifically designed to address that explanation, something shifts. Not just the treatment, but the mindset. Because now you are not just hoping something works. You understand why it should work. And that understanding turns out to matter a great deal for consistency, which turns out to matter a great deal for results. Now let us talk about what an effective protocol actually looks like, because information without application is not useful to anyone. The foundation of addressing nail fungus using this biofilm-aware approach involves a few core elements that work together. The first element is preparation. Before any active ingredient can do its job, the nail needs to be prepared. This means keeping the nails trimmed as short as safely possible, filing the surface gently to reduce thickness if needed, and keeping the feet clean and dry. Moisture is the enemy here. Fungi love moisture. Anything you can do to reduce the warm, damp environment that they thrive in gives you an advantage before you have even applied a single thing. The second element is consistency. This is where most people fall short, not because they are lazy or unmotivated, but because they do not see results quickly and they lose faith in the process. Understanding the biofilm timeline is critical here. Breaking down an established biofilm takes time. You are not going to dissolve months or years of built-up protective structure overnight. But if you are consistent, day after day, the gradual erosion of that structure begins. And once the biofilm is compromised, the active compounds can reach the organisms underneath and begin to do their real work. The third element is the formula itself. The right combination of biofilm-disrupting and antifungal compounds, delivered in a way that can penetrate below the nail surface, is what separates an effective approach from the surface-level treatments that have failed so many people. This is where a product called Mycosyn comes into the conversation, and I want to be straightforward about how I am bringing it up, because I think context matters. Mycosyn is a formula that was developed specifically around the biofilm discovery we have been discussing. It is not a standard antifungal cream or solution. It is a combination of natural compounds selected and blended, based on the research into biofilm disruption and microbial balance. The formula includes several of the ingredients I mentioned earlier, combined in a way that the developers believe maximizes their synergistic effects and enhances penetration below the nail surface. I am not going to stand here and tell you it works for absolutely everyone in every situation. No honest person could say that about any supplement or topical treatment. What I can tell you is that the science behind the formulation approach is real, and it is based on a genuine insight into why conventional treatments fail, that is supported by peer-reviewed research. People who have used it report noticing changes in the appearance of the skin around the nail within the first week or two. Over subsequent weeks and months as the new nail grows in, many report that it comes in looking healthier and more normal in color and texture than the nail it is replacing. This is consistent with what you would expect if the underlying imbalance is being corrected. The new nail grows from a cleaner, healthier foundation. I also want to address something that comes up a lot when people start researching nail fungus solutions, and that is the question of diet and internal health. There is actually a really important connection here that does not get talked about enough. The immune system plays a significant role in whether or not fungal organisms are able to establish themselves and thrive in the body. People who have compromised immune function, whether from stress, poor sleep, nutritional deficiencies, or underlying health conditions, are significantly more susceptible to persistent fungal infections. And this is not just about nail fungus. It is about the entire relationship between the body and the microscopic world it shares space with. Sugar, in particular, deserves special mention. Fungal organisms feed on sugar, not directly in the way you might imagine, but the internal environment that high sugar consumption creates in the body is one that favors fungal overgrowth. Reducing sugar intake, staying well hydrated, and ensuring your diet includes a range of nutrients that support immune function can all contribute meaningfully to how quickly and completely your body is able to address a fungal infection. Zinc is one nutrient that researchers have specifically connected to nail health and fungal resistance. It plays a role in skin and nail integrity and in immune function. Many people are mildly deficient in zinc without knowing it. Other nutrients worth paying attention to include vitamin D, which has widespread effects on immune regulation, and probiotics, which support the balance of beneficial microorganisms throughout the body. This is not to say that taking a vitamin will clear up nail fungus on its own. It absolutely will not. But supporting your body from the inside while you address the problem from the outside is a smarter and more comprehensive approach than treating the nail in isolation. Let us also talk about prevention, Because once you understand how fungal infections work, you realize that what most people think of as bad luck or susceptibility is often actually a combination of environmental exposure and missed opportunities to reduce risk. The most important single thing you can do to reduce your risk of nail fungus is to keep your feet dry. When you get out of the shower, dry between your toes completely. Do not put socks on over damp feet. Choose shoes made from breathable materials when possible. Rotate your footwear so shoes have time to dry out completely between wearings. When you are in shared spaces, public pools, gym locker rooms, communal showers, wear something on your feet. Flip-flops, shower sandals, anything that creates a barrier between your feet and the floor. The fungal organisms that cause nail infections are genuinely everywhere in these environments. You cannot eliminate your exposure entirely, but you can reduce it meaningfully. If you get a pedicure, make sure the salon sterilizes their instruments between clients. This is something that many people never think to ask about, and improperly sterilized nail tools are one of the more common ways that fungal infections transfer from person to person. Pay attention to your socks. Natural fiber socks, especially wool blends designed for athletic use, do a much better job of wicking moisture away from the skin than synthetic materials. If your feet tend to sweat a lot, changing your socks midday is not excessive. It is actually a genuinely effective preventive measure. And if you live with someone who has nail fungus, understand that it can spread within a household through shared surfaces, shared towels, or even just walking on the same floor barefoot. Addressing it promptly, rather than hoping it resolves on its own, protects not just you but everyone you live with. Now I want to take a step back and talk about something that I think is really the heart of why this topic matters so much to so many people, and it is not just physical. There is something uniquely demoralizing about a visible condition that you cannot seem to fix. Something about knowing that it is there, that you are aware of it, even when no one else seems to notice. People who struggle with nail fungus often describe a kind of hyper-awareness, a constant background anxiety about whether their feet might be seen, whether someone might notice, whether they are going to have to explain or apologize for something that they feel ashamed of even though they have done nothing wrong. That shame, that self-consciousness, has real effects on quality of life. People avoid activities they used to enjoy. They stop going to the pool. They decline invitations to yoga class or the beach. They pull back from intimacy. They make small, quiet adjustments to their life to accommodate the problem, and often they do not even realize how much space it has taken up in their daily experience until someone asks them to imagine what it would feel like if it were gone. What would you do differently if you did not have to think about this anymore? What would you wear? Where would you go? What would you stop worrying about? These are not small questions. The answers reveal just how much this issue has been limiting people. And that is why finding an approach that actually works is not just about cosmetics or vanity. It is about freedom. It is about getting back a piece of your life that you have been quietly giving away. Let us also spend a moment on what healthy nails actually look like and what the markers of progress are, because it helps to know what you are working toward. Healthy nails are smooth in texture, even in color, typically a light pinkish white, and firmly attached to the nail bed without gaps or separation. The edge should be clean and crisp. The skin around the nail should be calm, without redness or swelling, and the nail should be relatively easy to cut without crumbling or splitting. When a nail that has been affected by fungus begins to recover, the change does not happen in the existing damaged nail. It happens in the new nail growing in from the base. This is why progress takes time and why it is important to watch the right thing. You are not waiting for the yellow part to turn clear. You are watching for the new nail growing in from the cuticle end to come in with normal color and normal texture. That new growth is your report card. It tells you whether the environment is improving. In the early weeks of treatment, the most noticeable changes will be in the skin surrounding the nail, as I mentioned. Calmer, less irritated skin is often the first visible sign that something is working. Then, over the following months, as the new nail grows out, you will gradually see the healthy tissue replacing the damaged tissue. It is slow, it requires patience, but it is also unmistakable when it is happening. One thing I want to address is the difference between people who see results and people who do not, because it is not random, and it is not just about which product you are using. The people who see results are consistent. They do not miss days, They understand that they are working against a biological structure that requires sustained effort to dismantle, and they respect that reality. They also support the process from multiple angles, keeping feet dry, managing diet, getting enough sleep, giving their immune system the resources it needs. The people who do not see results in most cases are people who start a protocol with enthusiasm, see minimal immediate change, and then start skipping days or give up entirely within 2 or 3 weeks. And this is completely understandable given how many times these same people have been disappointed before. But it creates a self-fulfilling cycle where nothing ever has a real chance to work, because nothing is ever given enough time and consistency to work. If you have been through that cycle, I want to encourage you to think about it differently this time. Not as a commitment to hoping something works, but as a commitment to giving the biology enough time to unfold. You are not waiting on magic. You are waiting on a process that has a real scientific mechanism behind it. That distinction matters, because one requires blind faith and the other just requires a little patience and persistence. Let me also address the question of when to see a doctor, because there are situations where professional medical evaluation is genuinely important. If you have diabetes, circulatory issues, or any condition that affects your immune function, nail fungus is not something to treat only at home. These conditions can make infections significantly more serious and can also affect how the skin and nails heal. If you notice that the skin around a nail is becoming significantly inflamed, painful, or showing signs of a bacterial infection alongside the fungal issue, that warrants prompt medical attention. And if you have been managing nail fungus with topical approaches for an extended period without any improvement at all, a dermatologist can evaluate whether there is something more complex going on that requires a different approach. For most otherwise healthy adults dealing with typical nail fungus, a well-designed topical protocol addressing the biofilm component, combined with good nail hygiene and supportive lifestyle habits, is a completely reasonable and appropriate first-line approach. But knowing when to escalate is also part of taking care of yourself properly. I also want to briefly touch on the psychological dimension of seeking treatment, because for some people, the fact that they have lived with this problem for so long without finding a solution has started to feel like evidence that they are somehow beyond help. That is simply not true. The reason so many people have struggled for so long is not a personal failing. It is a systemic problem with how nail fungus has been understood and treated. When you did not know about biofilms, you could not address them. Now you do. That changes everything. You are not starting over from zero. You are starting with better information, and better information, applied consistently, produces better results. That is not optimism. That is just how things work. So let me bring everything together with a clear picture of what an effective approach looks like in practice. You start with clean, well-trimmed nails. You apply your treatment consistently, every day, morning and evening if possible, following the directions for whatever specific protocol you are using. You keep your feet as dry as possible throughout the day. You wear breathable footwear and moisture-wicking socks. You pay attention to your sugar intake and make sure you are getting the nutrients that support nail and immune health. You give the process time, understanding that the visible results you are watching for are happening at the base of the nail and will take weeks to months to become fully apparent. And you do not give up in week 3 just because the old damaged nail still looks the same, because that nail is not your evidence of progress. The new nail growing in is. If you want to explore the specific formula that was developed around the biofilm research we discussed today, and that many people are finding effective as part of exactly this kind of comprehensive protocol, there is a link in the first pinned comment below this video. I want to be clear that I am sharing it as a resource, not as a pressure to buy anything. Go read about it. Look at the ingredients. Do your own research. Make an informed decision. Your health is yours, and so is every choice you make about it. But if you have been searching for something that actually makes sense of why the old approaches did not work for you, this might be worth looking into. The first pinned comment is the place to find that information. Just scroll down, and it will be the first thing you see. Before I close, I want to say something to everyone who is watching this while hiding their feet, while choosing their outfit around their nails, while quietly skipping the things they love because of something they feel embarrassed about. You deserve better than that. Not eventually. Now. And the first step toward getting there is the same step that has always mattered most in any health journey. It is the decision to actually try something that works based on understanding that actually helps. You have that understanding now. What you do with it is up to you. Thank you for watching all the way through. It genuinely matters. And I really hope that this video was the beginning of something better for you. Take care of yourself. And go check that first comment.